Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 120 of Empire State Podcast. It has been absolutely ages since I've recorded a podcast. I am so sorry. I really apologise if you have been waiting for me. I am back. I have been very focused on the self-concept challenge that I've been running every day since the 1st of December, which I've just finished today, and we've had a bloody lovely time. I've really enjoyed it. It's been really nice to have over 60 women in there, all stepping into the new identity. To work with that many people all in one group was really, really lovely. So I've decided that I'm going to make it available, the 12-day challenge, as a digital download. So that'll be going on my website, which you can find linked in my Instagram bio, probably just before New Year. It's probably going to be a Christmas, middle of the Christmas season, cheese eating, quality street finishing job for me to put that together. So I hope that you are having a lovely December and that you're feeling very festive. Have you got your tree up? I have. Did you see it on my Instagram? It looks like ADHD has thrown up all over it, and I am here for it. I love it. I have just got back a couple of days ago from a weekend away in a lovely little village called Kirby Lonsdale, which is a very special place to me and my mum and dad, because we've got a place there, so we go regularly. And each year at the beginning of the month in December, there's always a Christmas weekend, and it's like quite an old-fashioned village. And they have markets and brass bands, and they have a Christmas parade and carol singers, and it's just a really lovely vibe. And it's only a small place, so everybody knows each other. It's really nice. But this weekend, it just gone, was not the case. So we did have 3 nights there. So we had a couple of nights first where it was pretty festive and we were having a lovely time. My Auntie Janet and my Uncle George came up to stay with us, so I was demoted to sleeping on the camp bed in the living room. Now, I've got a bit of a story for you. You probably saw some bits of it on my Instagram, and I know you like a story, so I'm going to tell you. So I have recently been experiencing the constitution of a sickly Victorian child. My body seems to be hanging on to every single morsel that I put in there for dear life. I've been feeling pretty backed up. So I've been eating a bit more carefully recently because of that, because it's been making me feel a bit sick. But while we're there, obviously I'm drinking more wine, I'm drinking Bucks Fizz, I'm drinking Baileys, I'm eating bacon butties, mince pies, Quality Street, you name it. I was eating and drinking it. But it was a one-way system. There was nothing coming back out. And this is relevant. I know this is an overshare, but I promise you it's relevant. So picture this. It's 5:45 a.m. and I am sleeping near the window on my little camp bed in the living room, and I start hearing a rattling on the street below, because we're right on the main street. It's called Main Street, where all the shops are. Now, because I am hardwired for the sound of a steering wheel lock because of my dad's company, let's just give him a little plug there, Armour Plate Resolute, go and get one. So because I'm always hearing steering wheel locks being messed about with, like at work, at my dad's work, I'm like tuned in to that sound, right? It's a very particular sound. So I hear this rattling outside, and I think that there is a person trying to get a steering wheel lock off. So I panic and I start like jumping up out of bed. I open the windows, and it's a proper like old-fashioned street where it's those windows that you lift up and you like, you know, like on Scrooge, where he goes, "You boy, what's the cost of that turkey that's twice the size of you?" It's one of those windows, like I can't remember what they're called, but you lift them up. So I'm leaning out of the window, looking out, thinking that somebody's trying to nick a car, and it's not. It's a bloke trying to open the fire hydrant grid, you know, the ones that are in the streets, and he's pulling it open and rattling about. So I looked up, and there's all this smoke coming from a building, just literally across the road, slightly behind the buildings that we're facing. And I'm thinking, oh shit, what's going on? So everybody's like coming out of the houses and having a look what's going on, but it's still like pretty quiet, pitch black. So I went upstairs to wake my dad up because he's also a nosy bastard like I am. So I thought I better let him know. So it goes up, knocks on the door and says, "Dad, there's something on fire." So then we're all waking up and we're all like looking out the window trying to figure out what's going on. By this time, the fire engines are parked up right below us, immediately below our apartment, with the sirens on, blue lights, people are starting to run about. Well, just at that moment, I started to feel very unwell with stomachache. And we're all sharing a bathroom. So let me paint you this picture. I am upstairs clutching my stomach, like feeling really, really rough at this point. And my Uncle George is in the bathroom. Now, I don't want to rush him, but I'm getting to that point where I'm thinking, oh, this is not good. Now, if you've ever been an IBS gal, you will know the horror of this scene. So I'm just trying to stay calm. I'm lying on the bed thinking, it's all right, I'll be out in a minute. I'm taking deep breaths. My face is becoming more contorted. The hairs on the back of my neck are standing up and I am feeling panicked. But then, to my relief, I heard the flush on the toilet. I thought, great, it's coming out. And then it flushed again and again and again. Now, this time that had passed was probably about 30 seconds before the door actually opened, but it felt like 12 years because I was feeling so ill. So finally, he opens the door and I realised that my Uncle George, who's a handyman, has got the lid off the bowl and he's decided that now's the time to start performing some repairs, doing a bit of general maintenance work while there's a fire across the road and I'm sweating, looking like the woman in Bridesmaids when she's eating the sugared almond, about to shit my pants. So I burst in, absolutely convinced that if I was like locked out for a moment longer, this was going to end in certain disaster. And absolutely nothing happens, to my surprise. I'm sat there, I'm thinking, this is not normal. I feel very, very ill. Why is nothing coming out? I'm converting to Christianity. I'm praying to the Lord, Jesus Christ, my Saviour, to help get something moving because I'm thinking, I really feel ill. I'm feeling really ill. Nothing's happening apart from the pain is getting worse and worse. Well, by this time, I'd like to point out that there are huge flames licking the back of the buildings opposite and everybody else is stood at the window while I am fighting for my life in the bathroom. So my mum realises what's going on and starts bringing me a hot lemon. My dad's bringing me an Alka-Seltzer and I thought, oh God, I'm going to faint. I am going to faint. So I slumped off the bathroom floor, like off the toilet onto the bathroom floor. The fire is raging away outside and I am fully passed out. It all went black, my vision went fuzzy, and there I am, lied on the tiles, pants around my ankles, all dignity has left the building. And I come round and I'm just about, like sort of figuring out where I am and what's going on. Police, get out now, you've got 1 minute to be out of the building. I'm lying there with no pants on, like the pants are around my ankle. So that was a really unfortunate timing for me to be practically Catherine wheeling on the bathroom floor. But somehow, I can only put it down to adrenaline, I managed to muster up the strength to pull some trackies on over my little like jarma shorts that are more or less like knickers. And I grabbed a fleece and then in just moments, I was out of the bathroom and I found myself stood in the market square with about 50 other people, all dressed for bed, where I'd been just hours before drinking mulled wine and having a lovely time. So my dad, who is bald and gets cold on his head, is stood talking to this policeman whilst wearing a bob hat, but not realising that the bob hat is my mum's bob hat, which is cream, and it's embellished with a selection of multicoloured crystals and gemstones. And my mum will not look at anyone because she hasn't left the house without any makeup on since she was at primary school. And all 5 of us are huddled round, waiting to be let into this village hall to shelter. And I'm still trying really hard to concentrate on not just shitting my pants in the middle of the street. Thankfully, I didn't. So I was very grateful for the constipation in the end. But I can only put it down to adrenaline. So we sat there for hours in this village hall waiting to be allowed back into our houses. Well, I work in a primary school. I thought it was just going to be like a fire drill, where you just go outside for 20 minutes, you stand there, do the register, and then you go back in. I didn't know we were staying out. So we're in this village hall, and there happens to be like a treatment room in the village hall that's used by a few ladies that do beauty appointments locally because it's only a small place. So we're all huddled round a radiator, and my Auntie Janet takes herself off for a nap on a massage table in the middle of this emergency. So thankfully, our other friends, who are like my other auntie and uncle, when I say auntie and uncle, I mean, the aunties and uncles that are your mum's, like your mum and dad's best friends, and they become aunties and uncles. So Liz and Andy were also in Kirby and had hired this cottage just outside of the main street. So they took us in for the rest of the day, like a few refugees all dressed in pyjamas. And it was only when I got there that I realised I'd spent the whole day getting about in public in the daylight by this time with my Matalan tracky leggings on inside out, with a wash label hanging from the tailbone and UK size 16 written across the back of my arse in shiny silver print. So that was a nice treat for everyone. And they weren't letting people access where our house was because they didn't want anybody walking on the main street at the front where all the emergency services were. But eventually, my dad and George and Andy formulated, well, I don't think it was Andy. Andy's very well behaved, so I think it was more my dad and George. But they formulated a plan to sneak in round the back to grab our things so that we could all go home, because he took it very, very seriously though. So we had to move, like, honestly, I can't even express to you how ridiculous it was. I really don't think that they would have cared because we were going in through the back. But my dad and George insisted that we walk like 5 drug mules walking through the Andes doing the walk of death, trying not to be ambushed by rival narcos. So we managed to get in. We were told we had to be silent by the leader of the pack, which was my dad. So we packed up with the blinds closed with one lamp on between us in the dark, and we got out of there quick. So it was a very, very strange weekend all in all, and also a very sad one. So that was the funny part of the story, but it was actually a really sad event because lots of people lost their homes and the businesses. It literally wiped out a section of Kirby Lonsdale, and somebody even lost their life in it, which was horrendous. So we're all sending our love to Kirby Lonsdales because it was just a really, really terrible event for them. But the one positive that came out of that was how incredibly kind people were being to each other. I've never seen a town come together like that. Everybody who was evacuated was looked after so well. People were making brews, they were bringing bottles of water, the supermarket was sending food to the local hall, people were coming from out of town to cook for people and to cater to families and putting them in B&Bs for free and opening up their own homes to stay in. And now businesses have let other businesses come and work from their place of work. But thankfully, we managed to get home safely, and I'm very, very grateful for that because obviously that wasn't the case for everyone. So sending all my love to the people of Kirby Lonsdale. So I just thought I would share that with you because I know that many of you enjoy hearing about the ridiculous escapades I often find myself in. While we're talking about ridiculous escapades, we're having a right bloody catch-up here, aren't we? We're on 13 minutes already. But I don't know if you've seen, there's a trend on TikTok where it's that Madonna song, like, I see an angel calling. I can't remember what it's called. Just Like a Prayer, that's it. And it's a picture of the Muppets, and people are putting like embarrassing stories on there. They are so funny. So I decided to join in last night and I made one. I'm going bloody viral, guys. It's got like 70,000 views already. And I shared my pizza story. Do we all remember the pizza story where we got locked out on the car park? If anybody remembers which episode that is, please share in the Facebook group because I had a look for it last night and I couldn't remember which one it was. So Let's start now with today's topic, which was actually requested from someone a while back, and I had it written in my notes, and I thought, today's the day. I can't remember who it was, but someone asked me to help them understand why they were getting hot and cold results when it came to the manifestations. And this was a great suggestion for a podcast episode, because this is incredibly common to experience this. We've all been there. I still go there regularly. So I want to clear up why that's happening. That doesn't necessarily mean it'll stop, because that's very dependent on something which we'll talk about in a minute. But I want you to understand why. So, please, for a moment, can you imagine that you are trying to boil a pan of water on the hob? So, you turn the hob on, you put it on full, you place the pan of cool water on top of the hob, and you wait. But then after a minute, you look at the water and you're like, well, it's still not boiling. It's still not boiling. So then you decide that means that maybe there's something wrong with the hob. So you start to doubt that the hob is working. So you turn the heat off, and then you turn it on again and think, oh, maybe it just needed resetting. Or maybe after a minute it's still not boiled, and you switch to a different hob plate and you warm that one up from being cold. And each time that you do this, the water loses the heat that it had already accumulated, and you delay the process of it boiling. So you push that boiling water even further away from you, even though what you actually desire is for the water to hurry up and boil. So the same thing happens when you manifest him, consciously manifest him, because we're always manifesting. So think of that analogy. The heat represents your faith in the vision and your persistence of keeping in that vision, of staying there, of being faithful. Every time that you doubt, and that looks like checking in your 3D circumstances for evidence, or reacting to a 3D circumstance that you don't really like, or trying to interfere by creating a plan in the 3D which is based in fear. It's something that you don't even really want to do, but you feel like you need to do it to get that result. You're not operating from excitement. Your faith is wavering. So that's exactly like keep turning off the heat and restarting it, or moving it to a different hob. You're stopping the momentum that was building towards your desired income. So to get those consistent results, you need to keep the heat on no matter what. You need to allow the water to boil. You need to let the heat do its job. You need to remain faithful in the vision and persist in the knowing that as soon as you decided that it's going to be yours, it's done. You don't have to have proof in the 3D. It's already done. What you're waiting, and I'm doing air quotes there, for is for it to show in the 3D. But if you were really in that knowing state, you wouldn't even need to see it in the 3D, because you'd feel as if it was real right now. So if you still require evidence from the 3D to know that it's done, you're constantly seeking things out, you're looking to see if there's any evidence of it, you're still creating in the 3D. And that's not what we do here. We create in the 5D, in the quantum field. You are not being a conscious creator. What you're doing is dipping your toe into the 5D and doing a little bit of creating there, and then you're pulling it back out because you get scared and you think, oh, it's not working. I need to find a way to make it work in the 3D. And this is why it's so important to understand the process of creation in the quantum field using law of assumption. It's so important, because you simply will not have that level of belief that's required to create it if you are still thinking that manifestation is just sending your desire out into the universe and hoping you attract it. You'll waver, you'll keep going into that place of doubt. Of course you fucking will. If you don't fully understand how and why things are working, how can you be expected to have that unshakable faith? Would you have faith in a bungee rope that you were about to jump off a ledge with if you hadn't first been shown that the clip was strong and secure and you knew how it worked? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't jump, because that would feel scary, so you'd step back onto the platform. It doesn't mean that it's not safe. It just means that you doubt that it is. So if you find that you are often having hot and cold results, that is because of a lack of faith in the vision. And that lack of faith stems simply from a lack of deeper understanding about how this universal law works. So study it, study it, study it, study it. Study the law of assumption until it clicks. Because when you realise that you are the only creator of your reality and that you are doing it using your imagination and your dominant thoughts, you also in that moment realise that there is absolutely nothing to worry about. There is no risk. How can there be risk and things to worry about when you're in control? When it's you that is shaping your reality and creating it with every single thought that you have. What was the risk there? Where's the worry? It's very simple manifestation. It's not easy. Absolutely not, because it goes against everything that we have been raised to believe, the systems that were put in us as children. But it is simple. It's as simple as a maths equation. If you are consistently faithful to the vision, you will create it. It has to be that way. If you are faithful sometimes and not others, you'll see that something comes in and then it slips away again. Then it comes in again a bit, then it slips away again a bit, and it keeps going like that. If you are consistent until it comes in, and then you get it, and you start thinking, oh no, this can't be right, I don't deserve this, and slipping into that old identity and thinking from there, it's going to disappear as quickly as it arrived. It is nothing to do with chance or luck or coincidence or any of the airy-fairy bullshit that you hear around manifestation. It's not because it's not meant for you. It's because you are being a flaky, doubtful manifester. So, sorry, because I feel like that sounded like a proper bollocking then, but I hope that that makes sense to you and answers that question. I really want you to remember at all times, you're calling the shots. It's you. You might have spent all of your life being overpowered by the creation of your subconscious mind, what's been going on automatic programming that was installed years ago. You might have felt like a victim to that, not realising that it's the servant and you're the master, not the other way around. All it's ever trying to do to you is prove you right and keep you safe. That's it. Its job is just to prove you right and keep you safe. So if you had a puppy and you told it to sit down and then you immediately went, no, stand up. And then you got frustrated and said, no, sit down, pushed its bum down. And then you said, no, I want you to stand up. That puppy would not learn. It would not know what to do. You're not being clear. You're not training it consistently. Manifestation, just like training, because that's all it is, it's training yourself to have new dominant thoughts. It requires repetition. It requires you to not react when something happens that you don't like and continue repeating the new thought. Your subconscious is confused as fuck, babe. If you are having hot and cold results, that's all. It's confused. It's not trying to prevent you from having it. It's not got a better plan for you. It's confused. It doesn't know what you want. It's trying to prove you right, but you keep changing the command. You keep changing your mind about what's real because you're getting distracted by this optical illusion that surrounds you. That is not reality. What's reality is what's in your imagination and what you're thinking from. It's easy to be faithful to the vision when things are going well in the 3D, when you're seeing things going smoothly and you're getting these little signs that things are coming in. But the real question is, can you remain faithful when the opposite seems to be happening? That is the level of faith that you need. And when you develop that, know that it's coming in. Because as soon as you can feel relaxed when everything else seems to be going wrong, you've got it. It's coming in. So let's do another little analogy to help you really get that in. So picture for a second a completed jigsaw on your kitchen table, right? Let's say you were into jigsaws. It's all smooth. You know it really well. You know everything about the picture. It's been there for ages, years probably. It feels familiar. You quite like it, or bits of it you quite like. But then one day, you go to the shop, and while you're out, you see a brand new, fancy, multicoloured jigsaw that you would like instead. And you love it. It excites you. You can't believe that you've found it. So you buy it and you bring it home. Well, right now, the current jigsaw is taking up all of the space on the table. There is no room for your new jigsaw. So if you want the new jigsaw, your only option is to break up the old one into all the individual pieces again. And if you're at my house, you've obviously lost the fucking box. So it's probably going to be swept all over the floor. That jigsaw that you have always known is now in bits. It's all over the floor. It's scattered about. It's chaotic. It looks a total mess. But you don't care. You do not care. Because you're so excited knowing that very soon on that kitchen table there will be a new, fancy, multicoloured one there instead. And the most exciting part about that jigsaw is that you get to build it. You get to put the pieces together one by one. And that's what people enjoy about jigsaws. You savour in the process of knowing what's coming. You're not stood there panicking because there's old pieces lying all over the floor. You barely even notice them. It would be ridiculous to start panicking about that. They're old. You didn't want them anyway. They were taking up space. You couldn't give a shit about all of the mess. So stop panicking when you see your old life falling apart. That's good. That is good, babe. Focus on the building of the new, the embodying of the vision version, in the knowing that soon you're going to experience that beautiful, colourful life in the 3D because you're already building it. You can see it coming together. When you choose a new reality, you are also choosing to allow that old one to break away. It has to do that in order to make space for the new one. So let me just share some of the best manifestation advice I have ever been given that changed the game for me when I was moving into using the law of assumption. And I actually cannot remember who it was that said this. I think it was a TikTok manifestation coach on law of assumption. There is never a time that you give up. Never a time that you give up. The fact that you even think, well, I'll try it for this long, and then if it doesn't come in, I'll give up. That is evidence of doubt. That is clear evidence of doubt. And doubt is the most harmful factor in your manifestation. It's not the bumps in the road that show up as shitty circumstances. That's not the most harmful part. Not at all. It's just a bit of turbulence. It's you assigning them the meaning that your manifestation isn't working and therefore giving up. There is never a time where you should give up. That doubt will have you stuck in the same place, getting hot and cold results forever. Eliminate that doubt from your world. If you have been persisting in the vision and in 4 weeks it's not there, you keep persisting because all it is a bit of resistance from your subconscious. That's it. It's just the dog needs a bit more training. It's not going to refuse to do it. It just needs more training. You don't say, oh, well, it wasn't meant for me. You persist, and persist some more. It has to come in. That is the universal law of assumption. It will be created. You just have to stop giving up. You're not an exception to the rule. You just need to stop taking the pan off the hob and let the fucking water boil so that you can experience it. That's it. So that is what I have got for you this week. I do feel like I've totally bollocked you. I'm sorry if it came across that way, but I just wanted to really drive that home for you because that's a really common thing that people experience that blocks them. You never give up on your manifestation. You've got to remain faithful no matter what to allow it in. So if you did find that useful, I would absolutely love you forever if you would go and leave me an Apple review because I've not had one for couple of months now, so it would mean the world to me if you could do that. And also, if you could tag me and share on your stories to help me reach a wider audience, come and let me know what you thought in the Facebook group. I'm really, really grateful for your interaction, and I hope that you have a wonderful week. I will speak to you very soon. See you later.